Hello and welcome. My name is Biagio Mazza, Pastoral Associate at St. Sabina Parish in Belton, Missouri, and I'm here to welcome you to another Do You Know series question. As we begin a series on the Mass, today's Do You Know question is, do you know what we do when we celebrate Mass together? To begin with, it's important to remember that the Mass has changed significantly over the centuries in response to both the social, historical, and theological developments that occurred over the centuries. And so what we will do during this series is actually examine those areas of change that brought about the significant differences and changes in the Mass over the centuries. It's important to remember that the Mass itself is the highlight or the high point of our communal celebration together as a Christian community. The Mass also is usually referred to as the Eucharist. And it's important to stress that word simply because the word Eucharist in Greek means thanksgiving. And so the question that we have to ask is, thanksgiving for what? And so this is where it's important to kind of focus in on what happens at the liturgy and what we do there. We give thanksgiving to God first and foremost for the gift of Jesus, God with us. We also further give thanksgiving to God for Jesus himself and Jesus' willingness to really proclaim the reign of God and to model for us what relationship to God was all about. Thirdly, we proclaim, give thanksgiving to God for Jesus' fidelity in modeling for us relationship with God and concern for one another, even to the point of death, being willing to give of himself even no matter what the cost. And fourthly, we thank God for the gift of Jesus' resurrection, the risen Christ. And in that, we have the enduring hope that we too someday will rise with him. These and many other reasons are the reasons for why we give thanks during the Mass. Now, our liturgy is focused in a Trinitarian manner. It's a Trinitarian reality, meaning it's focused on Father, Son, and Spirit, in which we are invited and called to share in that life. And we do this through our communal celebration. During our celebration, we are united with Jesus in offering Jesus to the Father in and through the powerful action of the Spirit in our midst. We celebrate Eucharist together. When we celebrate Eucharist together, we become one with God in and through Jesus, and we become one with one another and with the whole of the cosmos. So in other words, many of the things that we do in our liturgy is an attempt to enter more deeply into intimacy with the divine life, in the Trinitarian divine life, and we express that into our prayers and our rituals during the entire liturgy. Over the centuries, the Mass has changed, especially the way it was celebrated and so on. However, this one particular fact remained constantly the same, namely that in and through our liturgy we unite ourselves with Jesus in offering of ourselves to God, in which we bring the power of the Spirit in transforming our lives into the persons of Jesus and bonding always ourselves with God, with one another, and with the whole universe. So I hope this has helped to explain just a bit of how we deepen our relationship with God whenever we celebrate Eucharist, and especially deepen our intimacy with and connection to God in and through the person of Jesus, who has come to model for us what it means to be united with the Lord and what it means to be called into divine sonship with the Lord. As we continue to grow, as we continue to explore these various phases of the history of the Mass, we will look at these various other influences that brought changes to the Mass. But I want to constantly emphasize the fact that throughout all those changes, this constant of being deeply united into the Trinitarian life of God has remained the same and continues to remain the same. So I hope that this has helped to explain just a bit of what we do when we celebrate Eucharist and the Mass and Eucharist together. And I hope you will return again to more Do You Know series questions as we continue to explore the history of our Mass and our faith traditions. Thank you very much.